So how do we find exoplanets? There are multiple ways. The one that we're going to be talking about is the transit, but some of the other ones are radial velocity. So how does that, what's that mean? Well, if you've got a very large exoplanet orbiting around its star, the actual star is wobbling. The star's not staying put. They're orbiting each other over a central point. That's points inside of the star, but that star will wobble a little bit as the planets are going around it. And if you have very sensitive equipment, you can actually capture that redshift, blue shift that's going back and forth. So the star's kind of wobbling, so they can capture that. We'll be going into detail on the transit. Direct imaging, this is relatively new. We've got the James Webb Telescope, Hubble, really high-end equipment, and actually take a picture of another planet, another solar system, which is kind of interesting. The other two, gravitational microlensing and astrometry, they're just looking for, that's a little more sophisticated, trying to capture those. But transit's easy. It's actually an easy process if you want to give it a try. So what we're looking for is a known exoplanet, and we're wanting to know when that exoplanet is going to transit in front of its host star from our point of view. And there's an exoplanet transit database that I use, which is pretty good. It's var.astro.cz/en. Do you mind if I bring this up on? Where you go? I'm going to bring it up there.
That's right.
So this is the site, the Exoplanet Transit Database. And what we are interested in is the catalog. So if you click on the catalog, it will list all the known exoplanets. And it gives you all the details down here in the chart. The name of the exoplanet, its host star, how bright the star is, how often does it transit in front of its host planet, your host star, and how much it dips in magnitude. So those are some of the things we'll be looking for. For this particular demonstration, I'm going to demo actually processing some of the data. The easiest star by far is HD 189 733b. That B is the exoplanet. And what I can do is I can come up here and just type some of this in. HD 189 733. And let's do search. And here is the data for this particular exoplanet or star system. Go back to show you some of the data here. So if we look at the chart here, the star is mag 7.67, so it's fairly bright. You can almost see this star with your naked eye. Not quite, but it's close. The duration just under 2 hours, 109 minutes. So it's a relatively quick transit. It's zipping across the front of its star. The other thing that's interesting, the period. The period is 2.21 days. So this particular planet is orbiting its sun, its host star, every 2.2 days. So it's zipping around really fast. The planet itself is a giant Jupiter. It's a big Jupiter. So it has a nice dip in the light curve, so it's easy to detect. So this is the one that will run some data against, so we can show you how to generate this curve. But the exoplanet transit database is a good resource to use. So if I come up here to the exoplanet transits. So if you want to see what's going to be happening like tonight, let's see what's happening tonight here. So I'm going to put in our latitude. So we are what, 39, 38, 38. And then our longitude is about -8. And then I'm going to do a search. So these are the stars out of the 4,000 plus exoplanets that are out there that are transiting today. When you're using this resource, if you see any that are in the pink, highlighted pink, that means that it starts during daytime. So it's not really a good one to get. So what we want to do is search for one that is so here we go, we've got some. So, for example, I'm just going to pick one. Number 546, KOI 1367. The next good transit for that one, what is it, 26? So it's the 27th at 1:47 Universal Time, GMT. So we have to subtract 4 hours from that. So that would actually start here at, what, around 9:45 in the evening, close to 10 o'clock. And then it would end at about 11, just after 11 p.m. So you can look at the start time, when does the transit start? What time is it when it's in the center? And then what time is the transit over? So whenever you're looking at this, just make sure you're doing that conversion from GMT, Greenwich Mean Time, to our local time. So right now we subtract 4 hours. In the winter time, we subtract 5 hours from to get the current time. So let's come back into the presentation again. It's stuck in there. So the resource you want to use for determining which exoplanet transit you might want to detect, the exoplanet database, know what your current latitude and longitude is. Make sure you do your time conversion. Find a good, easy candidate. Like I mentioned, HD 189-733B is good. It's fast, less than 2 hours for the transit duration. The star is relatively bright. It's a big Jupiter size, super Jupiter, much bigger than our Jupiter. So it's actually dimming a good portion of the star's light. And so it's easy to capture. As I mentioned earlier, lens quality is not important because we're going to defocus. And I'll explain why we want to defocus a little bit here in just a second. So if you just have a regular kit lens, a zoom lens, a telephoto lens, that's perfect to do this particular process. It's very important. It's very easy to overexpose your stars. What do I mean by that? We're saturating the pixels. So we get to the point where, if our exposure is too long, or if we have the ISO set too high, or the gain set too high on our camera, then if we're taking like a 30-second image and our target star, a fairly bright star like HD 189-733, then we could saturate the pixels to where they're full. And if we do that for the entire transit, we'll never be able to detect any data because it's just completely, it's completely overblown. There's no way to detect the dip in the light curve. So be sure you don't overexpose. Also, defocus. Stars are little pinpoints of light in the night sky. And if we get really good focus on a star, it's only going to be covering a few pixels on our sensor. We want that light spread out a little bit more, over more pixels. That helps with the photometric analysis. We don't have to defocus a lot, just a little bit. We don't a pinpoint star, just kind of defocus it a little bit, and you can get better data by doing that. The other thing is, be sure you start a little bit before the transit begins and go beyond the transit. That way you've got a nice entry point, get a nice dip in the light curve, and then a nice exit point. Any questions so far? Okay, good. Photometric analysis using Serial. Serial is a great tool. It's free, very powerful. It's my primary tool that I use to process all my data. My deep sky images, my planetary images, my solar images, lunar, whatever, as well as you can do photometric analysis in Serial. And if everything goes well, I'm borrowing a laptop, so hopefully it works. But we'll do that here in just a minute. But what we're going to do is we're going to bring up an image into Serial. By this point in time, we should know what the star is that we're looking at. And I'll show you here in a minute why HD 189-733 is such a great candidate, because it's easy to find in your image. If you have ever taken a picture of the dumbbell M27, you've got HD 189-733 in your image. So it's there. So it's easy to find. What we're going to do is we're going to, when we start doing the photometric analysis, and this is part of the demo, we'll pick our target star, and Serial's going to do its little magic, calculating the flux of that star over all of our images that we took. And then I pick maybe 4 other reference stars that are, that shouldn't be variable stars or they're having anything going on. So we'll pick 4 other stars as our reference stars. And then we'll go let Serial do its magic and generate a light curve. So we get a plot. That may or may not be good if you actually see a dip in the light curve and say, hey, I captured that. Well, some clouds could have come through. Some smoke from Canada could have come through and dimmed the star a little bit, and then the smoke went away and it brightened back up again. So you need to do the exact same process again, but on a reference star, and make sure that your exoplanet star is not part of the data set on the second run. And then we'll plot another curve. And so if that works, we should have if everything works well, we should get a dip in the light curve. And then the second time we process, we should have a flat curve. So let's take a look at that here. Yeah. So this is a spreadsheet from the data that we're going to do. We'll process this data again. Don't worry about the numbers on the left. Those are those flux calculations, magnitude calculations that Cyril is doing for us. But then we can plot the data. So if you look on the top graph, you can see that I started ahead of time. I've got a nice flat entry into it. I get a dip, and then it doesn't quite come up to the same level as the entry. If you notice, it kind of cuts off here. And if I would have kept on going, it should have come up and then kind of flattened out. The problem was it was dawn. The sun was starting to come up. So my data started really getting bad, so I just stopped imaging. But I was able to capture that. The graph on the bottom, same set of images, but using a reference star. And by doing that, I have a high level of confidence that I was able to capture that exoplanet transit using a 180 millimeter telephoto lens and a Canon C2i on a tracker. And I think the image exposures were probably about 15 seconds, somewhere around there. And what you want to do if you're getting ready to do this, you go out ahead of time before the transit starts, take some images. You take a 10-second image, take a 15-second image, look at your data, make sure you're not overexposing the stars, make sure that you're not underexposing the stars. You want some data there. And so you find that sweet spot between exposure and ISO settings or gain settings. And once you're happy with how the stars are looking, then you're ready to actually start your process of capturing data. And you're capturing data just like you're doing a deep sky image. But we're not going to create a final image. We just want the data from each individual star to calculate the magnitude. So what I want to do next is I'm going to launch Cyril. I'll show you the process to do photometric analysis. The great thing about Cyril, there's been other tools, ImageJ and some other photometry tools that were painful. They were painful. Cyril makes it easy. It's by far the easiest tool that I've ever played with to do photometry. So let's give it a shot here. I hope this works. It's not my laptop, so we're going to give it a shot here real quick. So we've got, let me get Cyril launched here. Let me pull this over. Here we go. I'm not used to your desktop. You got all these desktop. You got all these gestures up on that. Where did it go?
I say you put it up and then just maximize it, just take it.
What am I doing? I'll let you got the gestures. It's on the expense. Yeah, right here. We can only play with it. So. You also do.
got the serial photo, it's so way over the way.
I think it was like the job.
Okay.
How many people have used serial before? So we have a few. Actually, I got most of my knowledge in the beginning from Nico, so thanks for that. So serial is an image processing software. You can do deep sky, planetary, solar, photometry. It's a great tool. The thing I like about it is free. I've never gone down the PixInsight path. I just never have. Maybe one of these days. So far, I've been happy with serial because it's a really powerful tool. So what we're going to do here is I'm just going to go through a demo real quick. I know we're running a little bit late. This won't take very long. First thing we need to set our home directory. So come over here, click on the little house up here on top. Set my home directory. I'm going to have to, there's other locations. Because I'm using an external drive. This is all maxed out. And exoplanets. Here's my data. I'm going to go into the demo directory, and then I'm going to open this. So this is my home directory. First step. Next step is I need to load these images into a serial sequence. Getting ready to process the data. So I'm going to select all these and so I've added those to my sequence. Thank you. Move over to I'll still try to get this right. I need to give it a sequence name. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to call this demo. And I need the screen's not fitting on the page. The other thing I need to try to do to really make sense here, I need to debugger these are raw images, so I'm going to debugger them, and then I'm going to convert. So what it's doing now is taking all my raw images from a Canon camera and converting them to a FIT image. A FIT image is just a standard image format for astrophotography. So it's going through, it's converting all those raw images into the FIT image, and then once that's done, what we're going to do is we're going to come up to the registration tab. We don't have any calibration data. I don't have any bars, flags, anything like that. So we're going to the registration, and we need to pick the proper one, which is the global star alignment. I don't know if this works. Okay, two pass global star alignment. And then we can say go register. So what it's doing now is taking all those images and just getting them all lined up on top of each other. Normally, if we were doing deep sky processing, we were going to generate a final image, we would stack. We're not stacking. We're just processing the data, we're creating a sequence, we're aligning all the data, so the star that we're interested in is all lined up in that stack. And once it's done, once it's finished doing the registration, then we do the photometry piece. So while that's doing that, does anybody have any questions so far? Even going back to, what's photometry, flux, what we're trying to actually accomplish here? Yes?
The star that we look at for this exoplanet, it's a very old system, right? 2 stars. How do you account for that when you do this type of analysis?
Say that again?
Oh, the star that this exoplanet orbits, it's a binary pair, right?
I don't know if HT1 89733 is or not. It could be.
Because I was going to say, I wasn't sure if there was like some easy built-in way to account for variable star brightness, especially for like an eclipse.
Well, the good thing, it depends on what's the frequency of the variable star.
Right.
Is it,
That's true.
if it's a short period, then it can cause problems.
Right.
This one's only lasting 2 hours.
That makes sense.
So if the variable star is going like over a week or something, we won't be able to detect that in our small data set.
That makes sense, yeah.
So, but if it's a longer transit, potentially 4, 5, 6 hours, and the variable star is pretty volatile, you might get some error built into that.
That makes sense.
Stars getting brighter while the transit's going on, you might not detect anything.
Right.
But I think for this one, since it's such a short period, 109 minutes, it should be a problem. Any other questions while this is, there's a lot of images here, so it's taking a little time to go through and do that registration.
Hey, Brent,
Yes?
we were talking about making sure the exposure was right. Do you use the histogram or how do you do that?
You can use the histogram, but the other thing you could do is if you do it like ahead of time, say you go out an hour before, take some images, and throw it into your favorite image processing, Photoshop, GIMP, whatever that might be. And then you can zoom in on that star. You get the eyedropper, like if you're in Photoshop, grab the eyedropper and just hover over the star and look at the levels over in the info window. And it'll go from 0 to 255 for each color, red, green, and blue, 0 to 255 in Photoshop. If everything says 255, you're overexposed. If you're down in the single digits, it's underexposed. You want to be someplace in between, maybe around 100, 150, as far as the intensity level of that star if you bring it into Photoshop. The histogram's not going to help because it's a pinpointed light.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, you really just kind of, the other thing you can do is you can kind of, if you take an image and zoom in on, if you've got like a DSLR, and you take a picture, you zoom in on that particular star, and you might be able to visually say, that doesn't look like it's overexposed. But it's really good to bring it in to something else at a time. And so you can take like a 10-second image, a 15-second image, a 20-second image, bring those in and see which looks best. It's still working. Any other questions? Yes.
Could you talk about more about what makes a good candidate and sort of knowing what makes a good candidate for the equipment you have?
A good candidate like the HT189-733, it's bright. So it has a relatively bright magnitude. In that exoplanet transit database, you can sort all the exoplanet transits by magnitude of the host star. So some of them might be, like this one's pretty bright. Other ones might be 10, 11, 12 magnitude. So they start getting pretty dim. You can still pick those up, but you might be taking 30-second exposures or 45-second exposures to capture enough starlight. The other attribute is the dip in the magnitude. So you're looking for something that's significant. Some of them are pretty small. It's a smaller Jupiter-sized planet. And so the dip is not nearly as noticeable. And especially here in the in West Virginia, we fight the jet stream all the time, so the seeing is bad. So you're getting some, those spots in the back, the graph there in the back, see how they're kind of bouncing up and down? That's just normal seeing around here because of the atmospheric turbulence. You go out at nighttime and see the twinkling stars. That's not good for astrophotography. It doesn't hurt deep sky. But when you're doing this kind of stuff, if it's really turbulent, you're going to get a lot of bouncing around in your star data. So looking for a star that has a good dip in the magnitude, and you can sort by the magnitude as well on the exoplanet transit database. And there's probably half a dozen really good candidates. You know, another set of data that I have is for TRES 3B. It's good, but it's not nearly as easy. If you're going to try this, start with this star. It's easy. You know where it is. I'll show you how easy it is to find. Some of you gotta do plate solving and star hopping to find it because it might be a 12 magnitude star, and you say, where is it? So you're doing star hopping and plate solving, so you can see if you can find the star that you're looking for. So we finished the registration. So now we're going to jump into we go to the plot tab, and then I'm going to drag this back over a little bit. Here is our and I'm going to do a auto stretch. So this isn't affecting my data, it's just so we can see things. So I just clicked auto stretch down the bottom, and here you go. You can see the dumbbell right there. That's the dumbbell, and the star our target star is this guy right here. HD 18977. Let me use the cursor here so people can see it on the screen. So our target star is this guy right there. And if you're looking at the dumbbell, you can kind of look at this pattern. You've got a bright star, kind of a dim star, and then right below, you've got kind of a dim star and then a bright star. There's no other pattern around in one of them that looks like it. So it makes it really easy to find this star. So here's the process. What I'm going to do is I'm going to, first run, we're going to pick our target star. And then you do a right mouse click. How do you do a right mouse click on your? His is different. It's a Mac. He's got his mouse pad for him. It's probably, it's probably got a command, option, control what?
Try 2 fingers on the right side.
Say it again?
Try 2 fingers on the right side.
2 fingers on the right side.
Yeah. If that doesn't work, then we'll say that.
Also says you can hold down the control key and
Yes. No, that's perfect. You should have used wireless.
It says on wireless or Bluetooth.
How do you do it? That's not. Thank you. Yeah, you gotta click the photometry mode down here, click a little bullseye. And so we go into, this is in the photometry mode. That's the aperture. Now let's try this. There we go. So I picked my target star in the bottom of the graph, okay? So now I'm going to go get some other stars. Just I'm just going to kind of randomly pick some stars that look similar. And let's do one more. And then over here, I'm going to change this to magnitude. And then I can save my plot. Click on my curve. And call this that. And this is where the demo is going to fall apart, because with my version here, I've got a new plot. It's a plugin that automatically plot the data. But what we'll do now is actually plot that curve. So we can kind of go back to our plot here. It would generate a similar plot of the first person. You would see that it has that dip in it. And so we would save that plot out. We saved our data out, we would set up the plot. Now, the newest versions here, 1.4.03, is beta. They completely changed their plotting tool. And I haven't had a chance to get it to work yet. But with the 1.26 is what I have. You can put the new plot plugin in, or you can just bring it into Excel. I just brought the data into Excel and told Excel to generate a plot. That's what generated these plots right here, is Excel. So if we jump back into Cyril, where did you go, Cyril? I'm going to clear all. So it's going to clear all the plot data there. Still in my photometric mode. Now, I'm going to stay away from this star right here. I don't want to do anything with this, but I'm going to make this my reference star. So I'm going to click on that one, and then I'm going to click on this one, and let's fix this one right here, and let's just do one more, say down right there. So I've got one and then 3 reference stars. I'm going to come over here and export my data. So 10/2, ref, whatever I'll call it. And then I can generate my light curve. It's generating the data. Let's call that ref like that. And then if I had the plot program added into this particular macro, then it would automatically bring up the plot. Well, we can take that data set we just saved, pull it into Excel, and then generate the plot. And so what you would get after I did that reference plot, you get the second graph there showing a flat line. If for some reason I did this and they both had a dip that was similar, I'd say this wasn't a good data capture. But doing something like this, you can actually see that you were able to capture the transit by the light curve. And this is just the change in the flux of the star as the planet's crossing in front of it. So I'm sorry for the technical difficulties. I have no idea why my laptop was not able to project on the screen. We've basically got the same laptop. When I first plugged it in, it worked, and then it quit working. So I'm not sure. Any other questions on this? Yes.
So you've exported a CSV, and that's what we're seeing here, but then you've exported the lake curve, and it's a different file. Like, what is that file?
It's basically the same. It's in that new plot format. So the .dat file, new plot, which is an open source utility, GNU is yellow. It's been around since the 80s. It can read that file natively. If you install new plot on your machine, Linux, Windows, Mac, if there's any old digital people around, you can run on VMS. And so everything works well, it just automatically displays the plot in serial. Now, with 1.4 of serial, they've completely redone their plot, so you don't need a new plot anymore. They're using their own, they created their own. But I haven't had a chance to get it to work, so we'll pay this. But you can pull either one of those into Excel, either the CSV or the .dat file, because it's like a tab delimiter instead of a comma delimiter. You can buy either one.
And then what are the two columns? One magnitude.
One's magnitude and one is this is it's whatever the flux value. So this is the magnitude they got, and I think this is the delta. This is the delta that it measured. And if you look at this, you can see that as it goes along, these values will change. They'll change to where your projection comes from. This is the column when you plot these two columns. You can also put this out in Julian time. So if you want to actually plot that by Julian time, you can then upload that to the transit database to add to their data set. So, so that way they know what the Julian time was, you did this data capture, and so that they can add to their database. And there's thousands and thousands of data sets for each easy install that people are doing this. So this is the image number, the flux calculation, and this is just the delta from the reference. So it's calculating, it's plotting each star, and when you pick the reference star, it's creating a baseline. And then going back against the target star. That's why you get this flat line here. Because we're using all the reference. So what's nice about that is if you do get like a transparency change, it compensates for that, so you'll still get a flat on your reference star. It's assuming that they're not variable. There's not any exoplanet transit going on those reference stars, so it will normalize the data into a nice flat, relatively flat. Other than the scene, as I mentioned earlier, you can see that's just atmospheric turbulence. Any other questions? Yes.
Is this planet a hot Jupiter or is it a star map?
It's a hot Jupiter. It's a big, giant hot Jupiter, and it's orbiting really close.
Yeah.
So it's, it's able to block a significant portion of the light. I mean, like, not 2%, it's like 0.03 or something like that. It's not a tax.
Have you seen any, I don't know how long you've been capturing this, but have you seen any changes in terms of how much it's blocking the light?
No, I think it's pretty regular. If you actually go out to the database and go back probably 10 years, how long it's been in the catalog, and it's kind of look like but every night will be a little bit different.
I didn't know how much of the atmosphere is shedding this.
Yeah, that one would be interesting. Things you there as far as, Beetlejuice is another, what Beetlejuice is. Is it getting ready to be supernova or not? That's kind of cool. But the moral of this presentation is, we didn't produce a final image. We don't have to have perfect focus. Actually, we don't want perfect focus. Basic equipment, relatively cheap tracking, whatever that tracker might be, as long as you can kind of track for a couple hours, you're good. Telephoto lens is forgiving on your tracking. You don't have to have perfect alignment. I think Jonathan mentioned earlier, if you're using a 14mm lens, you don't have to really get dead on full alignment. Same thing's true with this. It's okay to drift through the night while you're testing the data. So as long as you're pretty close to pointing north, with a 180mm lens, 105mm lens, a zoom lens, whatever you want to have, it's easily doable with basic equipment. And it's something different. After a while, there's only so many times you can process variety for the North American. So it's kind of something different, something to kind of play around on.
Can you gap between the shots, or
You can.
so you're not having like 500 shots?
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, you could. So you can set up, don't take a 15-second shot, wait 15 seconds. Take a 15-second shot, or maybe wait 30 seconds. And what you'll get is you won't have your stuff quite as tight, but you'll still be able to capture that curve. So you can
Fill up your computer.
Yeah. Well, as anybody knows, the processing data, I'm taking these raw images and converting to the serial fits. And each fit probably just generated about 6 or 7, maybe even 10 gigabytes a day. It's not on your machine, it's on my hard drive. I use that external drive to help minimize the amount of data that I'm putting on my main drive. Because it will fill up, any image processing will fill up storage pretty quick, especially if you have a lot of images growing out. Any other questions? Yes.
Would there be more reference stars in that chart if you chose 4 or 5 stars?
Yeah, what I've done before, the one other one that I mentioned before, TRES 3B, Trace 3B, it's a tougher one to get. So the dip in the light curve is pretty minimal. So what I did is I did that one, and then I did like 4 different sets of reference stars, completely changing them up. And so that I had 4 plots of reference stars, and then 1 plot of the exoplanet star, and I had a high level of confidence because these were pretty flat, and I could see the dip in that. But sometimes you might want to run multiple reference stars just to confirm that you're seeing what you're seeing.
I didn't know if it would be 4 or 5 lines or if it was average.
This is averaging now. When you do this, when it breaks the plot, when you're doing this one, this is your target, and then you've got your reference stars, and it's kind of normalizing a baseline using the reference stars for what the plot should like if there's not a transfer. It uses that data to then help calculate the light curve off the reference stars, so you get this nice dip. Because there's no transit going on here, I use 4 stars. This one star plus 4 reference, 1 reference star plus 4 additional reference, and it creates a nice flat plot. But sometimes you might want to pick different stars to see, make sure, especially if it's not real, kind of a deep transit. If it's more subtle, you might want to run more data. And what you can do sometimes is pick your target star, pick a set of reference stars, do your plot. Pick your target star, pick 4 different reference stars, and do another plot. That way you're just having multiple data sets to try to confirm that, yes, there is a light curve, there is a dip. So you can do that as well. This one's easy. It's right there beside M27, so it's easy to find. It's a nice bright star, and it has a nice dip in the light curve. Yes?
How do you pick your reference stars?
I just kind of visually look at them to see if they look kind of close. The other thing you want to do, that photometric aperture looks like a bullseye. The center part of the bullseye needs to go around the star, and you can adjust the size of that. The second band is a dead band. It doesn't use any of that information in the night sky. The outer band is calculating the background, the sky background. So it's using the flux from the star. It's calculating the sky background with that outer part of the aperture, and then we've got that dead band in the middle, so it kind of keeps those two away from each other. You just want to make sure that aperture covers your star. And when you're looking for stars, make sure that you're not getting any other stars in your bullseye, any other bright stars, because that can mess up your data as well. So you kind of look to see, is my aperture going to fit nicely over the star? Is it about the same brightness? It doesn't have to be exactly the same or close, but just in the same ballpark. Any other questions? Okay, well, I do apologize again for the hardware problem. Got me, so I'm going to be working on this all night, trying to figure out what happened with my laptop. But other than that, thank you very much.
Okay, so the weather is looking kind of like we may have a start party tonight. So we will convene at the Nature Center at dusk. And for all WVAA members, Tonight is our member dinner, and that will be at cabin number 8 as well. So we'll probably start that at about 7:15. So if you're making your way over for dinner for the members and our presenters. Other than that, we'll see everybody in the morning, for the first workshop or presentation, and then we'll do some more wrap ticket sales tomorrow. We also have our coffee stars, coffee mugs at the back, transition mugs, and then a message of pictures as well. Thank you, everyone.
And I didn't even need a plate. Just from Centennial, and I was eating that song.
Well, I don't blame you, I would do.
Now, you've got a little bit of toast here. Let me those modified. And then first, like I keep that, can't that. I didn't look at Charles, and they not did like Charles. Kingsport, where's Johnson? They have trees. Get serious over it. I know where those are too, but they're good. I've never started. I learned I'm not getting right behind you. I carry 2 hands. Black Hoovers, American Black Hoovers.
Yeah.
Hi, yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk.